Hey guys, welcome back. How are you? I hope you are doing well today. I am good, thank you. Today was a requested video by a couple of people who asked me how I keep track of the products that I am panning. Now, I consider myself a novice in the panning world. I definitely am not an expert in this field, but I have been panning since 2018, and I have learned a few tips and techniques along the way, and so I am going to share them with you guys. I hope this is something that interests you, that you learn something from, and that maybe there's something you can take away, whether you're a panner or whether you are just working on your or whether you're just playing with your makeup that's in your collection. Maybe some of my tips and tricks will help any of you to get some extra use on your products or keep yourself organized for projects that you were working on. This wasn't going to be the first thing that I talked about, but my phone just said it is almost dead, and so we better cover it before I can't talk about it because my phone is dead. And that is how I keep track of my projects. I use a Google Docs spreadsheet to keep track of the different projects I'm in. This one is the monochromatic year project pan. And as you can see, there is a whole bunch of items filled in, but I will post it up here. But those little hints of what I'm bringing into the project, you guys won't get to see because that would kind of ruin it for you. But I do this with every single project. I put them in a spreadsheet, and if I end up not using them, I can move them around, but I can physically see what I'm working with, what I'm looking at using. But I also, in my Google Docs, I have my inventory. So I keep all of my inventory in a Google Docs spreadsheet. Now, this has always worked for me until my spreadsheets crashed last year and I had to put everything back in. So I've also expanded on it, but this is like my skincare inventory, and you see this color right here. This is saying that this product is in a project. So I mark them, I color code them, that way if I am looking for some items for a project that I don't double pick, meaning I don't use the same items for one project as I have in another project. And this is really helpful to me, having it color-coded so I can see, okay, this is an active item in a project, and so I can't use it for this short-term project. For me, I truly, when I color-code them, these are for long-term projects, like a year, maybe 9 months, 6 months, but if it's like a month, I don't color code them. And why that is because I already know that it's active. Sometimes I forget if I'm just looking at, see, it's almost dead. Sometimes I forget if I'm just looking at a spreadsheet, oh, this is in a project, just because maybe I haven't picked it up in a couple of months. So that way that's why it's color coded. But if it's just for a month-long project, I know it's active because I am using it on a consistent basis. So that's where the majority of my tracking goes when it comes to what's in a project, what project is it in, and what is my goal on there. So I do mark whether it's you know, what type of goal it is, but also once I meet that goal, I move it down to the completion so I can always see on track where my progress is in the project. After last year and the crashing of my Google Docs, I ended up having to go back and watch my videos to find out what item was in what project. And so I ended up on in my description box of my videos, I also have a list of the items that I am panning and where I'm at, those ones that are completed or, you know, I'm still working on. It's not as in-depth as, say, my phone is. My phone is definitely where I keep, you know, up to date and my goal-oriented notes for my projects. But in my description box, I do keep it there. That way, if it crashes again, I at least have record of what's in the project and what is done. I used to track by date, you know, what date I finished an item, and to me that's not as important. I don't track how long an item is in my collection, or, you know, how much money I have used by panning certain things. I don't do that, only because that is something that would be too difficult for me to do. I am not a mathematician in any way, shape, or form. And so that to me is just really hard for me to compute in my brain. So I don't do anything technical like that. My goal is just to have a goal and meet it. So when I first started panning, I would put all of my items, you know, into all of my makeup. I didn't have that large of a collection then. I do now, but then it was rather small, and so I just kept it all together. But that caused problems in that I didn't always grab the items that I was panning. I would use other items. I wasn't as motivated to meet goal on those items because they weren't front and center in, you know, and in my eyesight when I was going to put on my makeup. Over the years, I have tried different ways to make this work. I've used baskets where I've just piled everything into the basket. I have tried marking them with what project the item is in. This year, I have started incorporating different ways to track what are in projects. I have little trays like this. I have them in my bathroom with items that are maybe not being worked on at the moment, but are in a project. And then the ones that I'm working on, of course, are in my bathtub. But then I also have this one. This one sits on my desk. This has like my creams, my lipsticks, my smaller items. I have some of my primers. So my littler items go in here unless they're eyeshadows. Eyeshadows go in a totally separate area because they're the hardest for me to remember to use. Why? I don't know, but it is. I moved to a basket to hold my eyeshadows. This one I am not sure I'm liking. This one is a newer to me and I'm just kind of trying it out for right now. But this one works because they're all falling now, because it fits all of my eyeshadow palettes and my smaller eyeshadows. But the only thing with this one is it's somewhat deep, and so I have to kind of pour myself into the basket to see it. But I have a couple of different baskets I'm trying. I just like this one because of the width, but I like the other ones because of the depth. So this one fits this larger palette that I have at the moment in a project. So this basket will stay until I have smaller palettes again. And then I'll probably go back to that one where it's a little shallower, so I can just look over and see what palettes I'm working on. But I used to have my palettes just kind of scattered about, and that wasn't working because I would forget, or I wouldn't be able to see an item when I was looking for it. So now in these containers, I can actually see what I'm working on. I also keep some items in cups. I have cups with items like my CoverGirl brow gel, and these are items I'm panning, and I want them right here so I know where they're at and I don't have to look for them because they're tiny items. So those cups keep my concealer, my brow gels, my brow pencils, my eyeliners, lip glosses, things of that nature that I need close at hand, but I don't want just floating in a basket or a tray because they kind of get lost because they're so small. So that's what goes in there. In the last few months, I have introduced these bags by Ipsy to hold items that are in short-term projects or shop my stash, things of that nature. Like my project 10 uses, I struggled to remember what I was working on in that project, and so now I have them in the bag and I don't lose them. So these items that I keep in the bags, these are items I'm working on but not necessarily panning, and having them in the bag reminds me that I have them because they are actually sitting right where I can see them, but they're not in my visual line sight that I choose to pick those items over my items that I'm panning. That way my first and foremost, thought when it comes to putting on my makeup are the items I'm panning. And then if anything that is like my project 10 uses or my shop my stash, then those are supplementary in my eyes. So they're not always ones that I'm going to use every single time, but they're ones I am going to use at least, once or twice a week, sometimes just once a month, depending on how much I use my makeup. What I'm trying to say is these bags have really been helpful. In the past, I have tried to use plastic bags, and those were just annoying to me. They were in the way and they looked like I had trash everywhere. But these bags, because they're nice looking and they're a reminder, oh yeah, I have stuff for this project in there, or I have my shop my stash in there. I don't forget that I am working on the items in these bags. Now, there are a couple of things I forgot to mention. How people track their products in projects is totally personal. Some people track their progress through weight. Some people track it through measuring on a piece of paper. Some track it through visually seeing how much progress they're making. It's totally personal. Some people like to track by how many times it took to meet their goal. However you want to track it. That is a personal choice in how you track. I have tried them all. The only ones that really work for me is to mark my bottles or to weigh them. I don't like measuring on a paper because it gets goopy and I have hand issues and it messes with my head, and I always lose the paper anyways. So I like to visually see my progress. I like to weigh it, and I like those ones that become a surprise when they start spitting and they no longer put out product. Those kinds of things, I like those as well. So find what works for you for measuring your progress and stick with it. If you don't like weighing, don't weigh. You're not required to. If you don't want to tick off how many times you use something because you forget to tick it off, don't. Find a way to track. Me, personally, on my computer where I can visually see it, and I know that I can see in full bloom what I'm doing in a project or what my inventory is looking like, which that one's a totally different story. But that works for me. I used to do it in a notebook, and that just didn't work for me. It became a little too messy. And so tracking it on a spreadsheet is the best thing for me. And then I'm really liking how I'm doing it this year with the bags, the baskets, and the trays. That seems to be really helping me with my progress on my products. So I am going to stop this video here. There will be a part 2 that talks about what I have learned from panning, what I have learned from others, what I have learned from trial and error, and just some of the different ways that you can approach panning that might work for you, because panning truly is personal. And whether it's how am I going to track all of these versus how am I going to meet goal on all of these, it's all intertwined. But I don't want to cut out anything that I have to say because I think it's all important. So I will cover, you know, strategies and things I learned in the next video. I truly hope you enjoyed this video, that you learned something from someone who is a novice that is still trying to find her way in panning, but has found the joy in panning versus the chore in panning. If you have found a way to track the products that you are working on in your projects, leave those down below for the others to see. That way, if I didn't mention something that worked for them, maybe you will have a suggestion that works for them, and that way we can learn from each other. Just leave it down below. Let's help each other learn and grow. And I always encourage you to go watch other panners when they talk about, you know, what works for them, how they keep track of their panning projects, because some of them have been doing this for much longer than I, and they have a wealth of knowledge that one can only benefit from. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Please take good care, guys. Be safe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.